Hello and welcome to the Game Lore Archives. This week we are discussing the cat people of elsewhere, Khajiit. Khaj means desert and Eat means one who lives and walks in, so the name of their race is literally one who lives and walks in the desert. This ancient race are potentially the oldest race on Tamriel, along with the Argonians, and they had a civilization long before Mer and Man appeared on Nirn. They are well known for travelling around Tamriel selling their wares to civilians. Unfortunately, they are largely untrusted due to the prejudice that they are all thieves or drug addicts. Thieves due to their natural agility and superior eyesight, and drug addicts as their country is the leading importer on moon sugar, among other things that we will discuss later on.
Before we discuss the race's history and religion, we really need to discuss their biology. The Khajiit evolution is something so vastly different from anything we've seen or spoken about before. There are 17 different subspecies of Khajiit, and any breed can give birth to any other breed at any point.
And these subspecies or breeds are also referred to as different fur stocks from the Khajiit race.
When a baby Khajiit is born, its fur stock is determined by the positioning moons of the sky. And yes, I mean moons, plural. The world of Nirn has two moons called Massa and Secunda.
When Massa is a new moon and Secunda is a full moon, the Khajiit will be born as Alms. The Alms Khajiit are similar in appearance to the Wood Elves of Valenwood, but even shorter in stature. Due to their elven appearance, it has led some people to believe that the Khajiit are not actually a beast race, but another evolution of the Aldmer. Due to the Alms' elven appearance, they are commonly used as diplomats to the other races on Tamriel. It's common practice for the Alms to tattoo their faces with cat-like patterns to closer resemble their cousins. And it's this subspecies that you see in the game arena. Now, when Massa is a new moon and Secunda starts to wax, the Khajiit will become Parma Rat. These are similar to Alms but larger. This extra height brings their height closer to a human, however their elven appearance is diminished as the Parma Rat also has a cat-like tail, and it's this fur stock that can be seen in the game at Daggerfall.
When Massa is a new moon and Secunda is waning, a Suthe Rat will be born. It is this breed of Khajiit that are found in the game Morrowind. As you can see, they have lost almost all resemblance to men or mer, apart from being bipedal, and truly look the part of the beast race. Interestingly, Morrowind is the only game to ever explain why only one breed of Khajiit can be found during the playthrough. We all know the Dark Elves were slave traders, and the main bulk of their slaves were made from the beast races. It is said that slavers prefer Suthe Rat as slaves, so will only capture and breed that species. Every other game will feature one breed of Khajiit and almost ignore all the others that exist. When both moons are full, the Suthe fur stock are born. They are similar to the Suthe Rat, but they are slightly smaller. It's never confirmed, but either the Suthe or the Suthe Rat are found in the game Redguard.
While Massa is waxing and Secunda is a full moon, the Cathay fur stock will be born. The Cathay are very similar in appearance to the Suthe Rat, however are slightly larger and stronger. The easiest way to tell the difference between the two is how they walk. Suthe Rat are what's known as a digitigrade animal. Digitigrade animals walk on their toes, with their ankles in a raised position, much like a cat or a dog in our world. In contrast, the Cathay are a plantigrade animal, meaning that they use their sole of their foot to walk like humans do. And for those interested, the last kind of foot posture it found in mammals is called unigulligrade. Unigulligrade is found in faster mammals where only a hoof touches the ground. So I've got some science there for you. The Cathay is the most commonly seen subspecies throughout the games and can be seen in Oblivion, Skyrim and Elder Scrolls Online. The larger version, the Cathay Rat, are born when both moons are waxing. The Cathay Rat and most other subspecies we mentioned from this point onwards haven't been seen in game, so we're purely going on how they are described in books throughout the game and sometimes concept art.
Which means we could be completely wrong.
The Cathay Rat are mentioned in a series of books that can be found called The Real Baron's Ear, and there is a bit of an X-rated scene which describes a male Cathay Rat's reproductive organ. Now, I never thought I would be talking about cat penises when starting this channel, but apparently Bethesda get their fair share of genitalia questions, so I will briefly cover it. The Cathay rat do have a barbed penis. The smaller Cathays also have them, but to a smaller extent. However, these are the only two breeds to have anything like this. So that's the end of cat sex education, so we should probably get back to the Khajiit.
So while Massa is waxing and Secunda is the new moon, the child will be a Toje, and when Secunda starts to wane, a Toje rat will be born. Neither of these first stock have ever appeared in any game, nor has there ever been anything written about it. It's speculated that both breeds stand on two legs, as that would mean half of the subspecies are bipedal, and others would be quadrupedal. It's also a fair assumption that the Toje rat is a larger version of the Toje.
And with that, we've finished all of the breeds that are bipedal, unless we're wrong about the Toje and Toje rats. So all of the remaining subspecies are quadrupedal, much like a real-world cat. And with a real-world cat in mind, we must discuss the Alfiq. The Alfiq are born when Massa is waning and Secunda is a new moon, and they look identical to house cats. The Alfiq cannot speak, other than the standard meow affair. However, they can understand the Tamrielic language. Because of this, they are most used as spies, infiltrating enemy homes while posing as their pet. When Massa is waning and Secunda is waxing, you will get an Alfiq rat. Nothing is known about them. However, if we follow the pattern of the rat suffix, meaning a larger version, we can presume they are a similar size and shape to a lynx. It is unknown whether they can speak properly or just in meows, and for all we know, maybe they're the only breed that can speak both language and act as translators between the two. Hopefully we'll find out one day.
See, I was just thinking that, because you said that the ones that meow are spies, but if they can't speak, then
yeah,
that's
so
going to be awkward.
It never explains maybe all Khajiits can understand the cat language.
Yeah.
As I say, maybe these ones are kind of between the two and will translate.
Parma is another subspecies that we know very little about. They're born when Messa is a full moon and Secunda is a new moon. They're never seen in game, and the only description we have is that they are similar to a tiger. The larger and stronger Parma Rat is born when Secunda begins to wane.
When both moons are full, a Sench is born. These are said to be similar in size to a Parma Rat. However, its forelimbs are 1.5 times longer than its back legs, giving it almost an ape-like appearance. They stand as tall as an Ulmer and weigh as much as 20 men. They are built much like a real-world cheetah, in that they are built for incredibly fast sprinting, but not for long-distance running. When Massa is a full moon and Secunda starts to wax, then the larger variant, the Sench rat, is born. Standing as tall as a large horse and the weight of equivalent of 50 elves, the Sench rat is the largest breed of Khajiit. They have straighter legs and shorter bodies than a Sench and are regularly ridden into battle. Because of this, Imperials often refer to them as battle cats. It is important to note at this stage that the Sench leopard mounts and the other Sench mounts in Elder Scrolls Online aren't a breed of Khajiit. The name Sench is interchangeable in the Khajiit language and is used for many different things depending on their context.
Wonderful. Just to make it nice and confusing.
Yeah.
The Daji are born when Messa is waning and Secunda is a new moon. The Daji are a rare breed of Khajiit that actually resemble monkeys more than cats. They live in the highest trees of the forest due to their small stature and light weight. In fact, it's said that the treetops they reside in are so high, even the Bosma struggle to reach them. The Daji are also said to be naturally talented at magic. The larger Daji rat are born when both moons are waning. Due to being larger, they don't live quite so high in the trees, but are presumed to be just as magically gifted as their smaller cousins.
The 17th and final breed of the Khajiit is what's known as the Mane.
Mane with a capital M.
The Mane is the spiritual leader of the Khajiit, and only one ever exists at once. There's 2 theories on how a Mane is born, but neither is confirmed. The first theory is that when a Mane is needed, a third moon will appear in the sky, and a Mane will be born. And the other theory is that a moon herald will be appointed to shepherd potential manes on a quest to the surface of the very moons itself. The sole survivor will then be declared as the new Mane. It's a bit of a weird theory, because obviously you'd think that there would be a name for the third moon or anything, which I couldn't find. But there's also nothing to contradict the theories. I would imagine that the real truth is a mixture of the two. So for one night, a third moon would appear, and all the Khajiit born on that night will then be a potential main, and it's those children that undergo the quest to be the new leader. The Khajiit believe, however, that the main is one soul reincarnated into different bodies. In the past, the Khajiit would shave their hair and braid the shavings into the main's hair. However, due to the population growing ever larger, it's just become impossible. So instead, the main will wear the braids of its tribe and its warrior guards. Due to the weight of this extra braided hair, the main can't actually move itself and must be carried on a palanquin carried by Rats.
So now we know the Khajiit's forms, let's talk about how or why these changes happen. The process itself is known as the lunar lattice, and there are 3 theories that are as likely as each other as to why these changes happen. The first theory is that before the other races arrived on Nirn, the Khajiit were a cat race who lived in the desert. Due to the desert's intense heat, the cats needed to evolve rapidly to survive. This leads to changes based on the moon so they can survive in every biome. The second theory is that the Khajiit evolved from the Ulmer.
As I mentioned earlier.
You'll say that again without me interrupting.
Yeah. I would have put it as you, but it's me that mentioned it earlier.
I didn't even register that it was in bold. However, it doesn't seem likely, as there are no mention of cats in any.
I thought we were redoing it.
I paused for like half an hour and you didn't say anything, so I was like,
I thought you were restarting from
No, that was fine. I interrupted you on that bit. Just say that bit.
As I mentioned earlier.
Really, Dan? However, it doesn't seem likely, as there are no mention of cats in any elven records. This is similar to the Dwemer, whom we suspect do not originate from the Ulmer at all. It is made more unlikely by the fact that the Khajiit were discovered by the Ulmer, named Topal the Pilot. Most elves evolved from the Ulmer, where the Khajiit coexisted with them. According to Topal, he found the Khajiit and taught them to read and write. Bosmeri records that have survived from the Merethic era also point to parts of Tamriel being avoided due to jungle catmen. So it does seem most likely that the Khajiit reigned as the dominant creature before the elves landed in Nirn.
There is, however, evidence to contradict this.
Isn't that always with us?
The first bit of evidence is the Orm's fur stock. They look so similar to Bosmer that people presume that they must be related in some way, and the Khajiit religion backs this theory up. So the Khajiit's religion is really similar to the Imperial's one, so much so that many people believe that it's blasphemy. Their creation myth is quite long and very similar to what we discussed in our very first episode of the series, so I will simplify the story quite a bit. The story begins with 2 litter mates called Anu and Fadame.
Anu and Padme.
They both decide to have a litter of children and gave birth to all of the original spiritual children, but with very, very slightly different names. So, for example, Alkosh,
Akatosh,
Azura with a H,
Azura without an H,
Nirni, stick an eye on, it's different.
Still counts to Nirn.
And Lorkhaj.
Come on, guys at Bethesda. Was the evening really that late? You're just like, sod it. And that's obviously Lorcan.
And they even gave birth to the moons. Now, after her 3rd litter, Fadame knew that she was dying, her life being drained by childbirth. Before she died, she shared her ancient knowledge between her children as her last gifts to them. These gifts correlate to the Imperial's concept of what each being did. So, for example, Alkosh's gift was time, as his equivalent Akatosh is the being of time. Fadame then went to Lorkhaj and asked him to form a dwelling place for her children, and Lorkhaj created Mundus, but tricked most of his siblings from the 1st litter in the realm with him. However, the 2nd litter escaped. This means that the 1st litter of children became the Aedra, and the 2nd litter became the Daedra. Fadame's gift to her child Nirni was the ability to give birth to children of her own, and Nirni used this gift to birth the races of Nirn.
Eventually, every child had a gift, except for Azura. Faramir waited until the rest of her children were gone and bestowed Azura's gift in secret. She was given permission to take one of Nirn's children and reshape them to her own liking as long as she made them the fastest, fattest, the fastest, cleverest and most beautiful creature in Tamriel. And guess which race she made?
Nice to know they're not big-headed, right?
Azura chose a group of elves from Valenwood to transform and moved them to the lush grassland and forest they would thrive in. Nirn was furious with Azura and asked her brother Ifra to punish the Khajiit. He turned their grasslands into a desert and their forest into a poisonous marsh. Ifra intended to kill the Khajiit by taking their homeland away. However, the Khajiit were protected by Azura, whom taught them the secret of the moons,
which is lunar lattice,
to survive. Notice that Azura took the Khajiit and moulded them from the Bosmer race, which is largely why the theory is there. However, religion has a tendency to defy logic and scientific evidence, and I would suggest that the evidence points towards the Khajiit being cats that evolved to adapt in the desert and became the dominant species before men and Mer arrived on Nirn.
It's quite easy to tell why it's a class as blasphemy, though, isn't it? It's so similar.
Yeah.
But because the moons do change their biology, they are at the centre of their worship. The Khajiit's armour will often adorn moon-like patterns, and when they use swords, they will often be crescent moon-shaped.
Although most Khajiit prefer to use their claws instead.
In the Khajiit's religious sermons, small amounts of moon sugar,
the active ingredient in the drug skooma,
are eaten in small doses. They do this as they believe eating moon sugar is eating a small part of their god's essence or spirit. It is this religious act that has started the prejudice that the race are full of drug addicts. However, this is not the case. Moon sugar might be an active ingredient in skooma, however, it is not a drug in itself. And while if a human or an elf ate it, it may, they may feel drug-like effects. The Khajiit don't if taken in small doses.
And when taken in the church, the amount of sugar is heavily regulated.
In fact, it has been suggested that when Khajiit eat moon sugar in moderation, it's very beneficial for their health and is said to give them glossier fur. It also helps sate the Khajiit's ridiculous sweet tooth, which every breed has. Everything they eat is sweetened so much that other races are told to avoid eating food while in the Khajiit homeland. These sermons will take place in the Two Moon Temple, a temple found in every town throughout Elsewhere. They are easy to spot, as they are the most expansive structure in any town, using the finest local materials and built to last.
I love the idea that there was one day a Khajiit who was having moon sugar, but before it was called moon sugar, they were just like, "Oh, why are you such a druggie?" And he's like, "It's totally sugar from the moon. We love it. It's good for us."
Yeah.
So now we know about the Khajiit's physiology and religion, we can start to discuss their history. We've already discussed that the Khajiit's kingdom had begun long before the men and Mer of Tamriel ever recorded history. However, the Cat people's kingdom's growth was cut short by the arrival of the elves. When the elves arrived on Tamriel and started to explore, beast races were forced to live in Tamriel's most inhospitable lands. The Argonians were forced to Black Marsh and the Khajiit into Elsewhere. North Elsewhere is a blisteringly hot desert which opens onto lush subtropical forests the further south you get. Not many cities are established there, most settlements being small villages. However, in the early days of Khajiit society, the land was a very different place.
When the Khajiit society started, there were 16 independent realms.
We presume a realm for each subspecies of Khajiit.
Each realm acted independently, and unlike the races of Man and Mer, the regions did not compete for greatness, land or power. Instead, they all understood their individual strengths and weaknesses, so each territory recognised that it specialised in one thing. They would do that thing and supply the other 15 tribes with the fruits of their labour in exchange for the others to do the same. The leader was appointed again by what position the moon was in.
This political dance with the moon got the Khajiit through every threat that they faced for years and years, including being forced out of mainland Tamriel and into Elsewhere's harsh desert by the elves. Unfortunately, this all changed when the Thracian plague of year 2260 of the First Era hit their society and decimated the Khajiit population. So many members died that the realms could not sustain the workload on their own, and so society changed from 16 realms to just 2, named Pa-Alatin and Ne-Quelabi.
Named Palatine and Aniquina in the Cyrodiilic tongue.
These 2 kingdoms represent the 2 extremes of the Cat People's society, taken from the tribes they had absorbed. Palatine resembled the wealth and culture of the Khajiit and viewed Aniquina as little more than barbarians. Aniquina, in contrast, had adopted many of the tribes where warriors were bred. The 2 lands fought for many centuries, however no one could gain ground. The Palatines of the south had the wealth to continuously hire mercenaries and withstand sieges. However, the northern tribe had strong warrior culture and could never be dominated.
This war continued until the year 309 of the Second Era, when the rulers of the 2 lands married and united their people and renamed the land Elsewhere.
Why Elsewhere?
Well, it stumped a lot of scholars for a while. However, the leading theory is it comes from an old Khajiit proverb that a perfect society is always found elsewhere. And so they call it Elsewhere.
Witty motherfuckers.
Well, at least we know the rulers had a sense of humour. Since then, they have managed to keep a strained peace, thanks to a constant struggle with the Main. Since this peace, Elsewhere's borders hasn't grown any larger, but has changed. The Khajiits fought the Bosmer for 5 years, and eventually surprised the Bosmer using the magic and agility of the Dagi and the Daedric Rat. When this war was won, they expanded Elsewhere's borders west. However, at pretty much the exact same time, an agreement was made with the Imperials where they lost part of their eastern border. A group of Khajiit bandits known as the Ren Rigira Kryn has taken up the cause to return that part of Imperial land back to Elsewhere, and West Niben remains a troubled spot.
The last thing that we need to cover is where they stand politically as of the Fourth Era. Elsewhere was part of the Imperial Empire, however half of the land have joined the Almiri Dominion. Unlike the other races, though, they did not do this out of hatred for the Imperials. In the year 98 of the Fourth Era, an event called the Void Nights began. This is where both moons vanished from the sky.
And we don't just mean they couldn't be seen for a while, as Khajiit sight allows them to see the moons at all times of every day. I mean they completely vanished without a trace.
Obviously, the Khajiit were deeply troubled by this, thinking their god had abandoned them or died, and that this was a sign of the apocalypse to come. 2 years later, the Void Nights ended. The Thalmor then travelled to Elsewhere and claimed credit for the moon's returning. Some believed the elves and others didn't, and so once more the country split into 2 groups, the Imperials and the ones supporting the Almiri Dominion. We should point out, though, that there is no evidence as to what really happened in the Void Nights.
So the moon could have vanished and reappeared naturally in some sort of weird, unheard of, Nirn exclusive backwards moon eclipse thing.
The elves could have used their magic to disguise the moons from everyone's view to gain the Khajiit's trust.
And maybe the Thalmor really did just make the moons reappear.
Maybe we'll never know, but that does now bring us up to date with Skyrim and its current events. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Don't you have a question that you want to ask?
Oh yeah, I do have a question that I want to ask. Forgot about that. So, I was playing Skyrim the other night and bumped into Maik the Liar as our in-house Khajiit expert. Who the hell is he?
So, no one fully knows. They are all different Maiks throughout games. He's definitely been in Morrowind, Oblivion and Skyrim, which are set years and years apart, and the most damning evidence that they're different is the one in Morrowind is a Sutharay, and the one in Oblivion and Skyrim are both Cathay.
Yeah.
So it is, and I believe he mentions in Skyrim that Mike's father was called Maik, and Mike's father before that. And the leading theory is he's kind of a way for the developers to kind of answer a bit of questions to the community. I don't really see how he does that, as he just seems bizarre and says weird things.
Really
so
weird
whether
thing.
that's true or not, but yeah, he's a different thing. I I think they just quite like him by now and want a bit of
Probably
tradition.
just quite funny.
Yeah.
He does say the weirdest of things.
Yeah. And that's all we have time for today. It has been quite a long episode, but I hope you learned something. I definitely tried to put in a lot of... I didn't know about digigrade and plantigrade feet until researching this, but I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.